Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us at this Your Overseas Home webinar. My name is Rosie, I'm a Senior Copywriter at Your Overseas Home. Today we'll be chatting with Stefania Russo from the Property Organiser about buying your dream home in Italy and how a buyer's agent can help you in that process. It's great to see so many of you with us today, whether you are watching on live or on demand. Once Stefania shared her presentation, we'll open the floor up to questions. So we'll have about half an hour of Stefania's presentation and then 15 minutes for questions. If you do have any as we go along, feel free to type them into your questions tab. It's just on the right-hand side of your screen. We do hope to answer as many questions as we can today, but if we don't get around to them all, please don't worry. Any unanswered questions will be forwarded to Stefania and her team at the Property Organiser. So lovely to see you today, Stefania. Can you please introduce yourself and the Property Organiser?
Sure, thank you very much for having me. So I'm Stefania Russo, I'm from the Property Organiser, and Property Organiser is a property consultant. So we're not an estate agent as such. We deal with properties in Italy. We assist our clients in searching properties. We work with local agencies, private owners, developers. So we look for properties in the wide market so that we can find the exact property that match as much as possible the requirement of our clients. So what I'm going to do today is to give you a bit of an overview of the buying process, the costing that need to be considered, and probably what you need to look at when you're looking for a property. As Rosie said, I will be available for answering any questions afterwards, and we're always available. Obviously, this is a limited time, so we're always available. Myself and my team, we are all over Italy, in every pretty much region, so we can assist you from the bottom of the hill, Sicily, Trentino, islands, everywhere.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, I'll hand over to you for your presentation.
Thank you. So what do I need to do to buy in Italy? So what I'm going to cover today, as I said, I'm going to have an overview of the taxes and likely cost, how to budget. So you're planning to buy as a cash purchase or applying for a mortgage in Italy, and also what to consider after you bought your home. So preparing yourself in terms of what kind of cost that you need to take into consideration. That could be, for example, renovation or running cost for kind of standard maintenance cost. So taxes and likely cost to start with. There are some fees that are optional and some fees that are mandatory. Of course, the fee that is mandatory is the notary. In Italy, we don't have a system of lawyers looking after the buyers or the seller's interests, but there is a notary that is an independent person. And the notary charges, depending on the location, the type of property, could be between 1,000 to 5,000 euros. The notary, as I said, is an independent person. And therefore, a lot of our clients ask for the support of also lawyers, that they will just look after the interest from the very start of the transaction for the buyers. Lawyers' fees, as you can imagine, can vary depending on firms. We have an in-house lawyers. Well, actually, we have one full-time in-house lawyers and two in-house lawyers that are working with us when the work requires it. And we offer some flat fees, and if people are interested in that, we can help. Another fee that is not mandatory but is very highly recommended is the surveyor. The role of a surveyor is not just checking the condition of a property or giving you a description of a house or give you a evaluation from the point of view of the commercial value of a property. Actually, the valuer in Italy is mainly a role that is related to the bank. The surveyor in Italy has a role to check the planning history of the house. And that is extremely important, because if a property in the past years had some works done where planning permission were not approved, then you would have a situation of inheriting issue that could bring financial compensation from the local authorities. So surveyor's fee varies a lot from regions, and I always say, don't think that north is expensive, south is cheap. That's not the case. Really depends on the province of a location, depends on the type of property. I always like to give example of the Piedmont as a region in the north. If we're looking at survey in the southern part of Piedmont, where you got beautiful country homes, you have the vineyards, and the surveys there for country homes or apartment can be below €1,000 unless you really request some specific checks, but generally around the €1,000 or even less. On the other end, if you're going on the lakes, for an apartment, you could even pay €1,500 to €2,000 for a survey. But do not kind of skip the survey only because you see that the property is nicely renovated and ready, because that could be a very costly error. Another fee that you need to consider is an agency fee. In Italy, we need to remember that both the buyer and the seller pay a commission to the estate agents. This one usually varies between 3 and 5%, plus the 22% VAT that is applicable because of the territoriality regulations. Agency fees cannot be avoided unless somebody buys directly from the seller. But buying directly from the seller means that you're a little bit not protected because you assume that the seller has a property that is up to regulations and has done all the checks. Saying that, if we're working with a buyer's agent, someone like ourselves, we do not add any extra fees to our clients, but we work in collaboration with the estate agency. So as I said from the very beginning, we are a property consultancy, so we work for the buyer's interest only. So as a buyer's agent, we will carry out a thorough search, contacting all the local agencies that might have properties that match the requirement of our client research. We contact private owners, so we look through our networks, so we look very wide in the market to find property that might not even be on the market yet. And then we contact developers if somebody is interested in new properties. And in that case, we charge a flat fee of 4%. And that fee is not, as I said, on top of the fee of estate agents, because the estate agents in this case will be paid by the seller side only. Then what you need to consider are the taxes. Now, the taxes changes depending whether you buy a new build property or something that is a resale. If you buy a new build property, you're looking at a VAT on top. So it's still a tax, but it's a VAT tax. And this one varies between 4% or 10%. 10% if you buy just as a holiday home. And 4% instead if you decided that within 18 months from the completion date, you planning to register residency in Italy. And it doesn't mean that you need to move your residency from your own country to Italy, but you still need to have a residency in Italy. So you're able to stay more than 3 months, and you can do, can stay longer time without asking for a visa, for instance, because we know UK, US, more than 3 months is not possible without a visa. If instead we buy from individuals, generally these are resales, the taxes that are calculated are based on something called cadastral value. And what I always say, cadastral value is a concept that is a little bit different than in everywhere else in the world. So I say what is not. Cadastral value is not the commercial price. So if a property costs 500,000, the cadastral value is not 500,000. Cadastral value usually is a fraction of that price, and it's calculated based on a unique value that each property is given by the Land Registry Office for tax purposes. So if a property, as I said, if I have to guess, a property of 500,000, cadastral value could be 200,000-300,000. And therefore, one would calculate it with 2% if a registered residency within the 18 months from closing, or 9% as a holiday home on that kind of 200,000-300,000. If a property is 200,000, the cadastral value could be 80, 100, 120. So it really varies, and in a bit funny way, more expensive a property is, generally lower is the percentage of a cadastral value. So what to consider in total as the costing that somebody should consider if want to add the taxes, the surveyor, the notary, the lawyer, agency fee. If you buy from a building company, it's a little bit more costly. So you're looking, you should budget around the 10-15% on top of the property price. If instead you buy from individuals, you should budget between 6 and 9% on top of the property price. As I was saying, the difference is, it's a bit, it's quite larger from the VAT and the normal taxation, let's say. But when you buy a new build, you also have some guarantees, like a 10 years guarantee from the builder, and you have, of course, a brand new property that nobody has touched, and you should have, all newest kind of utility systems, electrics, etc. So you're not going to have works to be done on the property for many years ahead. So cash versus finance purchase. Okay, firstly, we need to consider that many people consider financing the purchase in Italy in order to diversify the risk. So basically, a mortgage will not touch, let's say, the credit situation in the UK or vice versa. And at the moment, the interest rate in Italy is much lower than what it is, for example, in the US. So it is an attractive option. So we see a lot of people taking a mortgage, even if they were not thinking of applying for a mortgage, but they still go and making an application even after having made an offer. One thing to consider is that mortgages in Italy are very different. We don't have that fancy interest-only, cap, mix. We have variable or fixed. So that's it. And therefore, there is a bit of a limitation of also the type of mortgage that you can have. As I was saying, there are no mortgages like interest only, and at the same time, there are no mortgages like it could be the classical buy-to-let. In Italy, the mortgage is based on what I'm earning now. So the banks are not interested in what you're going to earn in the future. I'm not interested whether you're going to convert the place into B&B or if you're planning to use it as a long-term rental place. That doesn't concern the bank in any way. So you need to consider what is your earning now, and they will check the last couple of years of tax returns. One thing that is important to remember is that the affordability assessments are extremely different than in the UK or in the US or in any other country, even a European country like France. One, for example, in the US or in the UK, the banks tend to consider the amount that somebody earns multiplied by 3, 4, 5, or 6 times, depending on the banks. The affordability assessment in Italy is made considering all the outgoings, what is the income, how many dependents somebody has, meaning how many children, and therefore it's it is important that once somebody decided to apply for a mortgage or thinks to buy a property with a mortgage, contact a mortgage broker, or we have, for example, a member of our staff who deals with all banking work for our clients, and check what is the mortgageability, so up to how much the person is able to borrow. Then you can carry out a search, because if you're applying for a mortgage, firstly, you need to have a house. But if you're searching for a property, thinking that you can obtain, I don't know, an amount of money, and your search is based on property price, including the mortgage, and then your affordability is different than in your own country, you won't be able to obtain the mortgage, and you would have wasted time of viewing property out of a budget. And also making an application is not cheap. You need to translate all your documents, etc., etc. So it's better to prepare before, checking up how much am I able to borrow based on my circumstances, because in Italy it's different, and then moving on from there. Another thing that to remember, that doesn't matter whether you have an Italian dual citizenship, so you're Italo-American, or in England you're also Italian citizenship, or if you're planning to register residence in Italy or not. As I was saying before, mortgages are based on the last couple of years of tax return, and they're based on your situation now. Banks are not interested in the future. They want to ensure that what you had so far was good enough for make you pay the mortgage, and they want to go ahead in this kind of way. Another thing to remember, that mortgages in Italy have a different loan to value than probably in your own country. So Italian banks are happy to give mortgages to people from abroad. This is a lot of questions we have. I'm American, can I have a mortgage in Italy? Am I allowed to buy in Italy? Yes, everybody pretty much. There are very few restrictions are able to take a mortgage or to buy in Italy, but the loan to value is much lower. Sorry, you're looking at between a 50 and 60% of the property price. So, if, for instance, I'm looking at a property of 200,000 and my loan to value is 50%, I need to have a deposit of 100,000. On the other hand, if, for example, my mortgageability says that I can take a mortgage up to 100,000, if then I'm looking at a property, I can take a mortgage up to 100,000, and I'm looking at a property of 300,000, I will have to consider that I have to put 200,000 down and 100 mortgage. So the mortgageability is not anymore the 50%, it goes down to 30%. So why is important to check up to how much you're able to borrow. If somebody cannot take a mortgage in Italy, can still think of taking a mortgage, for example, in their own country. And in this case, in Italy, you will become a cash buyer, and the mortgage in your own country would be against your own property. So your own property in the US or in the UK will become, your charge will be your security, and the charge will be against your own property. So, as I was saying, after sale, what to consider when I'm planning to buy a house. House insurance to start with. House insurance in Italy is not very expensive, but it is important to have it. And also, it is even more important if you decide to rent the property, because you want to ensure that that the insurance doesn't just cover the property itself in terms of building or content, but you also want to ensure that the house is insured in case somebody hurt themselves, or to be liable versus people that could be your guests. You need to consider the taxes. So if you want a property that is very easy to manage, probably you need to look at properties that their taxations is quite low, so maybe small townhouses rather than brand new buildings, or think how you're going to cover those expenditures. Are you planning to rent it, or how much rental you are considering to receive, how often you're going to use the property. So in terms of running cost, of course, you got the utilities, and those are based on consumption. But then you're going to have the TARI, which is a waste removal tax. The TARI depends on the square meters of a property. the household, so how many people live in the property, and the local authorities. Then you have a IMU. IMU is the annual property taxes. In the US, the costing are extremely high. So clients from the US are always scared when they ask, oh, how much is the annual property taxes? Luckily, we don't have this kind of bills. Probably one of the highest bill for one of our clients is for an estate that in the county-shire that is made by several buildings and is a rental place, and then they pay something like 8,000-9,000 euros per year, but probably this is the highest. Most of our clients have apartment or villas, and the maximum costing is paying around the 1,000-1,500 euros per year. But otherwise, somebody have an apartment, you're looking at a few hundred per year. The annual property taxes is paid in 2 times. So it's paid in June and then in December. The local authority doesn't send the bills, expect that the buyers calculate the taxes, or the homeowners calculated the taxes themselves. That's, for example, something that we assist our clients with on a yearly basis. The annual property taxes are not payable if somebody is resident in Italy. Not only if it's only resident for for a few months, but if they are in Italy on a full-time basis. So that basically means if you are in Italy for longer than 6 months. As I was saying before, are you planning to rent the place, or are you planning to use in a property that is as an apartment in a complex, etc., etc.? Then in that case, you need to ensure that you are aware of the fees. So rental estate agencies, local agency might charge a different amount. Some goes from 15 to 40% of the total rental. Shop around. There are a lot of systems now that allow you also to manage the rental for yourself if you want. So Airbnb, you don't need, for instance, to have someone to manage it. You just need to ensure that you set up a system where you go check in and check out, or somebody cleaning the property, somebody that can be trustworthy to keep an eye on your home. Management fees, that's if you're, as I was saying, if you have a property that is a part of a communal complex with swimming pool and services, you need to ensure that you are budgeting, because on a yearly basis you will have to pay those kind of amounts. So you said if you're planning to rent it, those costs might be covered by the rental, but if you're planning to use it for yourself, you need to ensure that you are aware of the costing before you start. As I was saying, utilities, depending on the consumption, communal fees, again, I'm back on the management fees, but the communal fees sometimes are higher than having your own swimming pool. So a lot of people think maybe I'm going to buy a little villa or a property in a complex, so I don't have to consider the management of a villa and the swimming pool, etc. The running of a swimming pool can be around the 1,200 to 2,000 euro per year. Similar situation with the communal fees. So don't be put off on having your own independent villa for these expenditures, but just be prepared and trying to think what kind of costing you need to consider. So Fano, what to consider if a property needs to be renovated or built. When I'm talking about built, I'm talking, for example, plot of land that need to be totally done, or a property that needs to be renovated or refurbished, or you might want to go for a property that needs some work at any kind of level. Because in this way you can personalize your own home. We have a lot of clients at the moment, for instance, with our innovation team. We have several projects, from a plot of land that we are seeing it into roads and swimming pool and winery and the beautiful villa with a sea view in Sicily, to a client that we just been in and refurbished a small apartment, dated, probably built or renovated last time in the 1950s, and we're making it into a lovely modern kind of a holiday place for our American clients. So if you planning to personalize and to renovate it, go for it, but be prepared. Just don't be naive on thinking that I'm going in there because I work in buildings, or because at home I do my DIY, or I can paint, I can do the work in Italy. The way of building is different, the costings are different, some are higher, some are lower. I'm always standard with the bathrooms in the States. People tell me, oh, a bathroom can cost 20,000, 30,000 euros. Absolutely not. In Italy, you're looking at 5,000, 8,000 euros. But on the other end, there are a lot of other costing, like doing a roof, because you got scaffolding that is involved, that is much higher than, for example, doing a roof in the US. So be prepared in advance, and do some, we're back to originally to the survey. At the beginning, when you buy a property, check the type of work that the property will need. Remember, when you buy a property in Italy, you buy it as seen. So you have, the prices correspond to, or basically the prices that is agreed is based on the condition of the property. So the survey, though, can give you an overview as well of the type of work that you will need to do. So try to budget. You might want to spend a property that costs less but doing more work, or something that is more renovated and with little work or no work. So check, as I said, the planning history of a property, see what work needs to be done, have an idea of the cost for renovation, and also the fees that are required to prepare a project. Preparing a project is not just a couple of drawings. Depending on the type of building, you might need a geologist for a swimming pool, for instance, or even for building a wall, a retaining wall, need a geologist. You need an engineer. You might want an architect. Depending on the internal work, if it's just refurbishment, you might want an interior design. So all these kind of things, they should be checked from the very start of your kind of analysis of looking for a property. So why Property Organiser? Well, we've been founded in 2006. Actually, only a few days ago, we were 18. We have a professional indemnity. We are registered on the Association of International Property Professionals. Our core service always is property findings. So we were born as a property findings, and we are still the key company that is able to search throughout the market. We are one point of contact, but we work with the local agency, as I would say, private owners. 1 out of 4 people still buy and sell without agency involved. So we can have, we can deepen that pool of sellers. And we don't cost any extras. So if we work with us, or you work with an estate agent, you will pay pretty much the same fee. But with us, we are your agent, and we work only for your interests. We assist our clients throughout the process, so we do everything in English. We offer also complimentary services like obtaining fiscal code, open Italia bank account. We have an independent department with legal assistance, as I was saying. We also have someone who deals just with mortgages for our clients. And a lot of people come as well from a different agency, or having found the property by themselves for a mortgage assistance, because we work directly with the banks in Italy, and we know the system. And then also we have a team for restoration. So from planning to delivery, we're working with the local firms, we're working with suppliers, we have a direct discount for our clients, so then we can have a beautiful and expensive materials, but without expensive tickets. So yes, that is us.
Lovely, thank you, and happy birthday. I didn't realise it was
Yeah, very soon. Yeah, it was last week, I think.
oh, lovely. I hope you had a good celebration for it. Okay, fabulous. So I will pop the next slide on just with your contact details while we
Yeah,
go
thank
through some
you.
questions. Yes, so after this webinar, you will receive the presentation and a recording of this webinar if you wanted to watch it again or circle back at any point. That'll all be available. You've also got the Stefania's website at Property Organiser up there, and we'll send you another one tomorrow just in case. Okay, so Philip is asking, how is the cadastral value calculated?
Okay, the cadastral value is calculated based on a unique number that is given to each property, as I was saying, for tax purposes. So it really is quite difficult to say how it's calculated because it really depends if you buy as a holiday home, if you buy as a resident. This calculation is different, for example, for the use of the taxes for the rubbish collections, is also differently used for the calculation of the annual property taxes, the IMU that I mentioned before. So it's a little value that is used for many purposes. So it's not just so straightforward. Also because if a property is made, for instance, by more than one unit, or it could be with a cellar or with a garage, or the house could be maybe made into different apartments. Again, the calculation is made in a different way. But the lowest it is, the better in terms of taxes, means the taxes are low.
Yeah. Okay. Was I right that you said the higher value the property price, the lower the cadastral value? Is that what you said?
It's not about, it's more about the percentage. You have to think that the cadastral value is not being updated for many years, probably almost, well, we're looking about, the land registry was born in 1967. So a lot of his cadastral value have not been updated since then.
Right.
Technically, every time that a property is renovated, should be, the cadastral value should be updated. But it's very rarely happens, or anyway, when people update it, they try to maintain the costing that are on the average of the location. So I was saying, if a property, property $1 million, the cadastral value could be 300,000-400,000, which is what, extremely low. If a property is 400,000-500,000, the cadastral value can still be 200,000-300,000, so the same value than the property of $1 million. So it's just a bit of a paradox, I would say, but it's not a rule, but that's how it happens.
Yeah, well, so it can actually be beneficial that it's not been updated in a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, fab, thank you. And then we've got another question. I imagine this would vary depending from like client to client, but would you be able to provide a sort of quote really on the flat fee basis to support the buyer from start to finish?
Rosie, I'm really sorry, but for a moment, the internet seems to be broken up. I don't know if it's you or myself.
Okay, no worries.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. Would you be able to provide buyers with a quote estimating that you would help them through the entire process?
Sure. I mean, as I said, we're not having quote as such, but our fee is only based on the sale of a property. So when we carry out the work, we don't ask for any retainer, but we carry out a personalized search. Our clients instruct us, and then we start the search. And then when they come into Italy, we meet them, we accompany them to see the properties, negotiate the price, and then after all the due diligence is completed, and we are sure that the property is sellable and the transaction will go ahead, we will pay. We will be paid with our commission. And as I said, our commission is a flat fee of 4%, because within that costing, we also have the rest of we also offer complementary services for the after sale. So we calculate the taxes for the first year. We do the switches of the utilities. We register the clients for the tarry rubbish, which is the disposal for the year taxation. So within that kind of 4%, the 4% per se is the commission, and everything else is complementary for clients.
Okay, lovely, thank you. Roger's looking to relocate to Italy, and he's asking, can you advise him on the 3 most important initial steps of making that relocation?
Firstly, check locations. Don't, ideally put together your key points of what is important for you to relocate. If it's important, the weather is important, the feeling of the community, transport or hospital. So start to kind of research locations. If you haven't been to the location, probably go to see places rather than houses, and start to discover a little bit more the areas. Then have everything planned. So if you are planning to sell your home in your own, your house in your home country, until you actually have an offer, don't start looking at properties, because then you might see something, you like it, but you're not able to go ahead. So it is important that you have everything in place. And if you are 100% sure that your property can be sold and it's in very quick time, that's great. Go ahead, but have some kind of contingency plan in case it doesn't happen. Because one thing that you need to remember, in Italy, contract is binding. So if you are committed, you cannot then say, oh, I'm not able to move on. You lose the deposit that you paid. So that's one other thing to consider. And the third part is, I would say, ensure that you have an agency that you can trust and they can help you throughout the process, because it's not just a question of looking for a house, but you will also have to have set up, as I said, a bank account, utilities, have everything organized for your final move. This is something that we feel proud that our clients are followed throughout the process and beyond. We have clients that we are in contact even 10, 15 years later, and we still do that calculation of taxes. But there are other agencies that are equally good. So just to ensure that you're not just looking for a house and then forgetting everything else. Somebody moves, need to discover the area as well.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like it's just really all down to the planning. So how important would you say it is for someone to have an idea of where they want to buy before coming to you? Like, if they
it helps.
Mm-hmm.
It helps, but at the same time, we had the clients that they came to us with an idea, and then we sat down and discussed locations, and they went in different total places. I mean, I remember a client that wanted relocate in Italy, and their planning was in the north, but they want to have good weather throughout the year. I'm afraid if you're going to be down to Turin or Florence, it's cold in the winter, and it's not the right location for you. So we start looking up places, and we gave them some suggestions, and without even wanting to go to see them first, they were really keen on one of the suggestions, and they decided, and we carry out a personalized search for properties matching their criteria, and they went to Italy first time, and they bought it, and even I think it was in 2017, 8 years ago. And even now we are still in contact, because any now and then they send us Christmas cards and their regards. So it's good to have a location in mind, but very often I say why. If you haven't been to the place, because a lot of people might see it online, ask yourself why you want to be there. And we as a team, we are throughout Italy, so we are able to give advice to clients on locations and also practical tips of living in Italy.
Okay, lovely, thank you. David's asking, who can I contact to determine how large of a mortgage I can qualify for, as I would like to know my budget before I begin my search?
Yeah, absolutely. As I was saying, one of our team deals just with the mortgage application and the banking side. So if you write to info@propertyorganiser.co.uk, we will be happy to transfer you to the person that deals with mortgages. It's called Mara, and she'll be able to send the form. And without, doesn't need to be done through us, but we'll be able to check based on the circumstances of the client up to how much we're able to afford. And then it's from that time that I would say you can start looking at property, because in this way you will know what kind of price range of type of houses you will be able to look at, and you're not going to be disappointed.
Lovely, thank you. Gary's asking, do I understand correctly that if you use a buyer's agent, you don't pay anything to the selling agent?
That's correct. When we work with our clients, we carry out a search and we contact all the local agencies. So by contacting the local agencies, we basically propose a partnership or a collaboration, let's call it, rather than partnership, whereby the seller is represented by the local agents only, and the buyer is represented by us. It's some, collaboration between agency always existed. So it's not something that we invented, but we basically have our core service based on that.
Okay, lovely. Another one from David. Do you know if debt is considered when you apply for a mortgage?
Well, as I was saying, in Italy, the way that mortgages are calculated are very much different. So they will consider mortgages that you have in the UK. They do consider how many dependents you have, if you have any alimony. So really, they do consider these kind of things, but they also consider the return that the tax return that you process on a yearly basis. They also check if you have any other type of passive income. That could be a rental that you receive from properties. So there are different things that get checked. One thing I would say, Italian banks are not so keen on many mortgages. So for instance, if somebody has mortgages on several properties as a buy-to-let, they don't see that as a positive thing. They don't look at the asset, but they look at like outgoings. But if you have at the same time in the tax return several kind of avenue of incomes, the banks are happy to check it. Case by case, unfortunately, it's not a rule for all.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Roger's asking, does it make sense to rent versus buy, especially if you're a newbie relocating to Italy?
Really depends on how long you're planning to rent, and also if you are set for a location. So yes, if you are planning to relocate, but you're not sure even where you want to go, it is better to rent. But rather than renting, I would say enjoy Italy and do a bit of tourism and trying to find out the various locations that you might like. If instead you're set for a location, I would go for a purchase rather than rental, because in Italy, the rental contracts tend to be quite long and established. So it's very difficult to get contract that could be like 6 months or a year. This type of contract kind of fall under the category of holiday rent, and therefore they would be much more expensive than a normal long rental contract. But those commit you for 4+ years. So really depends again on circumstances.
Okay, thanks. Philip is asking, I've already found a property via a joint buyer-seller agent. Are you still able to help?
Yes, we are. Obviously, it depends if you are already, in that case, we wouldn't be able to step in and say, you seller get paid you agent are paid by the seller side only, and we are paid by the buyers only, because in that case, the seller's agent would not split the commission, because we've already done the viewings and you're already buying it. But certainly what we can assist with is with legal assistance, and we also offer legal assistance plus, which is the role of a lawyer supported by ourselves, doing all the rest of the work with part of the administrative work, the power of attorney, contract in English, attending the notary at completion. And the costing really depends on the price of the property and the work that is involved. So free to send us an email, and we can, with information on what you are buying and where you are at. Because if you're already, signing a preliminary contract, which is a binding document, might be more, we might need to step in a different way than if you still have to make a written offer. And obviously, if you make a written offer, is when you are the most protected, because we can make the offer conditional to due diligence, a survey, and all those kind of things.
Okay, thank you. I know we're running out of time, but I've just seen a great question, so I'm going to ask it anyway. Tina is asking, do you have particular sellers that you work with? I assume she means agents.
No, we are totally independent, so we don't have any vested interest in working with a specific agency or specific properties. We're looking at properties that are for our clients, and we, as I said, we work for the buyer side. So if there is an agency that have property that are right for our clients, we approach the agency. We then obviously agency that we've been working for almost 20 years, but we always had property because we search the market rather than contacting agency that we know of.
Gotcha. So you're not limited by the people that you can work with. It's based
absolutely not.
Property,
Absolutely not. We have a market, and we work throughout to ensure that we find the property that match the client. So we're not looking at agency to match clients, but we're looking at property that match the client.
Okay, great. That's lovely. Thank you. That is about all we've got time for today. Thank you, Stefania, for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. And thank you for all our viewers for joining us. Before we finish, I would like to invite you to join us in our next webinar, which Seb will be hosting. It's in just 45 minutes time at 3:30 UK time, where we'll be talking with Smart Currency Exchange. They are currency experts who can help you with your currency needs when buying property in Italy, especially if you are buying from another currency. As I said, we strongly recommend that you get in touch with Stefania and her team at Property Organiser directly to discuss your requirements in detail. We'll be in touch with their details shortly. And before we finish, if you did find this webinar remotely helpful, we would appreciate it if you could leave us a review on Trustpilot. Thanks again, Stefania. It's been lovely to see you, and happy property. Bye.
Bye-bye.